Welcome to The Third Chair, a show about real people, real stories, real life. And here are your hosts for The Third Chair, Peter Grigg and Doug Bazeski.
Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, Doug. We had Julia last week.
Great.
We have Ty last
Great.
week. And we got the producer's microphone. Not so great.
Yeah.
I think the audience thought that was the best part, especially my lovely picture.
It sounds like God is talking to us with a scratchy throat.
I was thinking of the other end.
Well, we are so delighted to have Julia, Hillary, and Ty back. Julia is going to continue to talk about life as an artist, and that she's expecting having
that was
a baby.
Great news we had last
Great
week.
news, and how they're preparing for that. So we're super excited to have Julia and Ty Hillary back on the show tonight. Welcome to The Third Chair. That's Doug. I'm Peter.
Who happens not to be yawning.
Who happens not to be yawning. We have Julia Hillary here and her husband Ty, who will be on in a segment or two. And as many of you know, as you know from watching episodes a year ago as well as last week, Julia is an artist. She studied art at both Pikes Peak Community College and UCCS. And you can see some of her work on her Instagram and her business website, and we'll give you that information at the end of the show. And so we asked her a lot of questions about being an artist over lots of other episodes, and so now we're looking at some of her art and sort of asking her what is the neoclassical influence or the Japanese cartoon influence or the Japanese ukiyo-e, which is also a new buffet in town. And, and so we're putting up a shot here.
People are looking online.
You're not going to find it.
They're not going to be able to
Sorry about that.
So here's one that I thought really illustrates it. The one in the middle there. I don't know the name of that. I had the name of that, but certainly I see all three styles in that, or at least 2 of the 3 very strongly.
That's the way it's
supposed to be upside down.
It's
Yeah,
supposed to be the
she's
girl's
floating
upside
down. Yeah,
She's drowning.
she's drowning.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't
But her
know.
hair looks nice.
I know, isn't it?
Hair looks nice, but very realistic looking person. Cartoon like I see both the sort of the Naruto and the Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh influence. How about the classical? Any classical in that?
I'd say more of the just the balance of the colors, and I try to do a little bit of realism in with my like the heavy dark outline is really what attracts me about the sort of cartoonish style. I've always started doing my paintings without any sort of outline, and I think, I'm gonna make this one look really realistic, and I get halfway through it and I go, it looks good, I just think it would look better with a black outline, so I add that in, and it gives it sort of a whimsical cartoonish quality. And I think that it's sort of just the way I think, the way my brain works. It tells me, like, if it looks too realistic, it's not really that interesting. And it takes itself too seriously in a way.
But she looks kind of both, which is unique.
That's why I like to sort of throw in a very contoured sort of like that neoclassical style, which also sort of is classical as well. I like the contrast of colors, but I also like just the boldness of the colors and these textures that stand out. And the bubbles look a little bit cartoonish. This is actually supposed to be a triptych. It's the 3 paintings all together that show, here's the top of the water, here's sort of where she is now, and then at the end, this is where she will be.
Is that off your Barotrauma series?
Yes.
That's off your. So here's some more off your Barotrauma series. Are we seeing the same sort of thinking with the drawing on this?
Pretty much. This is from when I was actually working as a mermaid. It was my,
Common theme.
Yeah. So there was a theme about wanting to be better than human, but letting that desire sort of destroy you because you are just a human. So a lot of the work I was doing in this time with Barotrauma and my other series, Etheria, was all focused around sort of mermaids and then these like angelic creatures. And Etheria sort of went off on its own tangent when COVID hit and everything shut down, but Barotrauma was very much about like, I am enjoying this part of my life so much, but it's dangerous, and like I mean people can drown. That's very literal meaning of dangerous, but it's also if I get too far into it, I feel like I'm going to lose myself, and then what if I can't do it anymore? I'll completely lose myself because I've made myself this my whole personality, you know, it'll sort of destroy me if I try to delve too deeply into this.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. See, I always thought like artists were just like people that dipped the into the paint and put something on the canvas. But you know, the amount of studying of different techniques and the amount of thought and investment of who you are in a painting is so phenomenal. It's like beyond words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of the reason why sometimes artists have trouble selling their paintings.
Oh yeah.
I'd
I'd
feel
say
like you're giving almost your pet
giving my
cat
baby away.
Giving your baby away, yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of, I'm very proud of a lot of these works. Some of them I'm like, this one's okay, but you know, I wouldn't feel bad if I went and gave this to someone else. Like the first piece I did for Barotrauma, I'm like, that was more just like oh, look how pretty she is. This is sort of the what you see from the outside, and I'm like, I'm not in love with that painting. I like it. I think it works with the rest of the series, but I wouldn't mind selling it as the original. Whereas the other ones in that series, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to give that one away.
Do you have one like if someone offered you $100,000 that you wouldn't sell?
I think the big lady painting, Sweet Mother, I don't think I could sell that one. I just love it too much. It's 5 feet tall. We have it hanging in our bedroom because I'm so proud of it.
Wow.
I actually painted it when I was 19.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so big, and I painted it for so long, and I thought about it so deeply. I'm like, I don't think I could give that one up for anything.
So you have a $100,000 painting in your house right there.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, this is $100,000 now. Somebody pay me that to make them something.
Yeah.
I can brag about it.
This is another one from the series. And is she sad in this picture, or what? Why the look on the face that way? What's going on?
This is just sort of the after effects of when you take the tail off. There's a lot of things that go along with it. It's a gorgeous profession. I love doing it. I love doing professional mermaid stuff. But once you take the tail off, there's ugly things that happen. One time I had the worst ear infection I've ever had in my life. I almost asked my dad to take me to the emergency room, but he's like, I'll take you to urgent care.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But I was like in tears. I thought like my head was going to explode. It was actually inside of my ear. It wasn't on the outside at all. Yeah. Because you have to let the water into your sinuses and it gets infected in there. And apart from that, it was just like fatigue. Sometimes I was actually very afraid of some of the fish in there. The first time I went into audition, I dove down and I came up crying because I felt like I was drowning. And so it's sort of like yes, look at this beautiful myth that I created. However, this is the reality. It's like, oh, she's really pretty, but she's not doing well.
Yeah, well, and so that's some of your earlier work. We'll have some more in a bit. I've seen on your Instagram that you've dabbled with digital art now.
Oh, absolutely.
And including, we're hoping to get a video clip to put up, but this one is, let me read it, found footage of the apocalypse. And it was some kind of like monster there flying around.
So this is what Etheria turned into.
This is that was your sort of your outer space.
Yeah, outer space, angels, there's a lot of technological references in it because I had this idea that like if something so divine as an angel came down to Earth, it would mess with radio waves and electronics and stuff because it's just too divine to be, held in by regular things.
Yeah, on your website, in your description of Etheria, you mentioned radiation and technology. Something radiation and technology. I don't know if it was heavenly beings, radiation and technology,
beings
or
being radioactive. It's like, you know, in biblical sense, they say you can't look in the face of God. You can't like make direct eye contact with angels because it does damage. And I always sort of thought of that as being like, it sounds a lot like radiation. What if?
Well, it sounds like Raiders of the Lost Ark at
Yeah.
the end there. Well, I think all
Did you
the
ever read
Nazis were
H.P.
melting.
Lovecraft?
I did, yes.
And the kind of picture kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of the thought process behind this piece. I actually, the pieces that are all found footage of the apocalypse were happening when, you know, COVID was still raging and it didn't look like there was ever an end in sight. And also we were having the terrible fires that were just, you know, making the sky completely...
So are these going to be
Yeah.
movies that are like 5 minutes long or 10 minutes long? I know it's like there's a clip that's like 2 seconds on your Instagram.
Yeah.
The thing just flies around. Yeah.
That was mostly just it was an experimentation to see how can I put this into a moving media. I have a lot of dreams where I'll be painting something and the painting will start moving. And so I thought, you know, I want to
Those
make
are interesting dreams.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make that a reality, so I thought, okay, I can do that with digital art. For a while I couldn't because I was using Animation Desk, and I don't like them because they started making you pay to use their stuff, and also it wasn't even very good.
So
So
change
then
to something else.
I already had the app Procreate, which is fantastic. I think everybody
All right,
wants
we'll
to do that.
we'll have to
should use
check
it.
that out. We're going to take a break from procreating. And when we come back, we're going to ask her about her digital art creation called Hyperbole. Hyperbole when we come right back. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Grigg, a life and recovery coach with Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. I've had the pleasure and privilege of helping people for over 25 years. I want to hear your story, support and encourage you while we partner together to help you reach your goals. I can help you. I am certain I can help you. I can be your guide, role model, resource person, and help you get results. What's my coaching frameworks? I'm an eclectic coach drawing from a variety of disciplines and frameworks with evidence-based proven methods. What would you like to work on? Some popular areas are goal setting and attainment, building and maintaining motivation, finding purpose, personal development, recovery from drug and alcohol addiction problems, health and wellness, life planning, athletic and creative artist performance enhancement, maybe something else. Just ask me. I would love to help you. You can find my services on Fiverr.com. Welcome back to the third chair. That is Doug. I am Peter, and we are here with Julia Hillary, artist, local artist. You can see her work on her website and her Instagram. We'll give you that information at the end. We're talking about some of her pieces. She's been focusing on digital art lately, and this is a piece called Hyperbole, and we'll put that up on the screen. So what was the story behind making that?
I wish there was a real story other than I thought it would be nice to paint a lady with a crazy background. It's a lot of this was just experimentation with digital art, trying to see.
So like you got a new program, it's like, oh, what if I press these buttons?
Yeah, I've had the program for so long, but I didn't realize how much it could do, and I was like, oh, there's this tool that makes everything widen and shrink, and there's this tool that makes all the colors sort of jump around, and I can do all these layers. I already knew I could do layers, but I was like, I can play with layers. I can just make all these weird psychedelic things, and I just wanted to make the craziest thing I could think of in a few hours.
Yeah, when I looked at that, part of me is saying like, I wonder if she was like doing some mushrooms and was in some sort of sweat lodge
No, I
with
wish
her
I was.
tablet.
I was at work with nothing to do. That's the story. I was like, I'll just draw. I'll draw whatever comes to mind.
And on the break, we're talking about hyperbole as a title. Was the intention of this to sort of be intense with the colors and the look and sort of the exaggerated kind of feeling, or certainly a naked purple woman with yellow hair gets your attention?
Pretty much. Again, I'm not really sure if I had any ideas going into this. They always sort of form as I go, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This sort of beaming energy ball that's surrounded by all this craziness and this woman, it's more of just me trying to see how I can play with light and shadows and crazy colors.
Nice.
You know, Ty's a writer. You should give him this, and he can write a sci-fi story with
Make a
it.
story about her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be interesting.
The lady in the Matrix.
Because I mean, it's an interesting picture, and it needs
Yeah,
a story to go with it. I mean, and it looks like she's in outer space to me, and
Yeah.
it could be.
I think
Little
Ty
bit.
can write a good story.
So here's something else I saw that I thought was fascinating from your Instagram account, and that was you were working on some tarot cards.
That is true. I actually made 5 of them so far.
How many a deck? I assume there's different kinds of decks and different numbers.
No, I think there's the same
You're
amount
supposed to
in
be
each tarot
standing.
deck. I can't remember how
At
many it is.
54?
No, it's like 13 or something.
Only
Because those are the
13?
ones that you draw to like, oh, well, this is the death card, this is the whatever this
Oh, I
is.
thought
It
they were
James
tells
Bond
your,
movie, yeah.
it
yeah.
tells your
Hmm.
fortune somehow. I'm like, I never really bought into the whole tarot reading thing. Maybe it's some trauma, Christian trauma, being like, oh, God will hate me. But if I try to divine the future.
Well,
Or
you know,
maybe it's just sort of, everybody's doing this, and although I will say there was one time my friend had her tarot read by another friend who had just gotten into it, who said, oh, I see fertility and change in your future, and then the next day she found out she was pregnant, which I thought was
what are the odds
either
of
a
that?
very weird coincidence or maybe she's onto something, but
Yeah.
but then again, you can assign any meaning you want to these,
Sure.
so.
Now, I was looking at that, and I've seen some tarot decks before, so it looks like you're individualizing your interpretation of some of the characters. Yeah, and also I'm thinking, she's going to make her own deck and sell it and, like, not be the starving artist.
There was that idea behind it. Originally, I was going to. Originally the idea came from my best friend and I said we both want to look at the names of the tarot cards without actually looking at any of the tarot cards to see what that makes us think. And, like, you know, the magician. What do you think of when you see a magician? I'm like, well, I think of, like, a witch or something sitting there with her crystals and her skulls and her candles and stuff, and she's casting spells, and it's kind of a wizardy witch.
And I think of like David Copperfield.
Yeah.
you know, or someone like that for a magician.
Yeah, and then there was
I
some.
think of Houdini.
Houdini.
Yeah,
Escape artist.
and there's some interesting ones like the towers and
Mm,
oh gosh, there was another one. The Jester. I think that was one of my favorite ones to do. I haven't posted them yet because I haven't finished a whole deck yet.
mhm.
Is the Jester the same as the Fool?
The Fool, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I just remember the Fool.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
right.
I mean, the Jester classically was like the clown in the king's court.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a tarot for a jester. There might be.
No, I think they're the same thing. I think I was just
The
thinking
Fool
of
and
the
the
Fool.
Jester.
Well, that's good. Good luck with that. Now, this one I thought was really interesting because it's not very often you see a woman sliced into pieces. But your lady with the blue hair, and you've like removed sections of her flesh, not in a gross way, but it's sort of like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, what's the story with this one?
this one, I actually I painted a woman, and then I thought, I'm at work. I don't want her, goods showing. So I erased them, and then I thought, that looks really cool. What if I make it look like she was cut in those areas and just put like those little bits of bone?
Hmm.
And it was mostly just me playing with different textures, especially on her hair, like that little shine I did.
Yeah,
there. I was
yeah, I
like,
saw
"Oh,
that."
I love that so much. And then I added that, and it just sort of gave the whole piece a totally different. I don't know. It's almost like a story about bodily autonomy. It's like you can see me, but only the parts I want you to see of me.
I thought maybe that was a reflection back to your time in marching band, where you had green hair or something similar to that.
No,
I thought you
actually-
watched too much CSI.
Yeah, the black dahlia here.
Yeah,
Blue dahlia.
So what you're saying is, if you're an up-and-coming artist, you want to not only download these apps, but find a good job that when you're on breaks, you have time to do digital art of a woman in several pieces.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
I think everybody should follow their own path. I just happen to love to play with art.
Yeah, maybe you ought to have
But it's good to play because I think you learn by taking things apart and putting them together. I mean, and they might not be successful in yourself, but you learn like, oh, that's interesting. You know, maybe.
I do think it's really important to just don't make things just because you want to mass produce them or sell them. I think it's so important to make stupid art sometimes. Just
Yeah.
just go play, throw some paint at a canvas, swiggle it
Mhm.
around, draw a
Just-
weird picture, have fun with it, and that's how you
Yeah.
get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know what you like until you make it accidentally, and then you're like, oh, I love that.
Yeah. We sort of have the same philosophy here on set
Yeah.
as we create podcast episodes.
Most of the time, we just pretend we make up questions to please our producer, but we just make it up.
Then we just do what we want.
Yeah.
All right, now this
He knows the truth.
Now this
No,
one I was so fascinated with, and I must say it's the only art I've seen of yours that I can honestly say I have no clue. So this is called Exploitation with two naked women.
This was sort of an experimentation. I actually did this for my art class, one of my painting classes in college.
Mm.
It was. I wish I could explain the thought process behind this, but I'm not sure if I had one other than look at all these pretty colors, and this is kind of gross, isn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, and what I was struggling with was who's being or what is being exploited. I was looking for that. I wasn't sure. I looked like a woman there with some of her guts, so it was just a statement about a woman being
eaten.
exploited. She's being eaten. Is that other woman a cannibal or a monster or?
I mean, I think that's up to the reader the
Yeah.
viewer to decide. Because the expressions I put on them, I was watching a lot of America's Next Top Model during this time, and I was sort
Sure,
of
yeah.
thinking about how these girls are constantly tearing each other apart, but they look really good doing it. So I'm just sort of
wow.
I don't know, there's a lot of exploitation of beauty,
Yes.
especially in the modeling industry, and that was
It
just
can be
sort
terrible.
of, yeah. And I was sort of thinking, I was also doing mermaid stuff at this time, and I kind of thought about how lucky I was that I'm not working for one of these places. It's like, take your top off, because I'm like, okay, I'm performing for children, but other people are performing for these crazed adults that just want depravity. I'm lucky I'm not there, but the background is, I don't know, I think that just goes back to my desire for some gorgeous, crazy things, and it was a lot of automatic drawing. I just sort of draw whatever I felt felt right at the time.
So it sounds like there's a lot of different kinds of feelings and thoughts that went into this, a mixture of both pleasant and unpleasant. Yeah. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and we will finish up a few more art pieces when we come right back. It's really embarrassing to get choked out by a Denver mermaid, but that's exactly what happened to me when trainer Julia from 9 Round put me in a rear naked choke. back to the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug. We have Julia Hillary here, who has, this is like her 4th episode. You have now done more episodes than anybody in the history of the show, except for Doug, and myself.
Yes.
That is
But
good.
I don't know if Doug does anything back there.
He's
Well, I'm surprised we didn't get a comment on that one.
I need a donut.
My 26, 27-year-old daughter, 26, I think she's 26, who's also studying art, loved this one. She thought it was a very clever play on words. That's Amore, that's Amore. And that's an older one. That's from 2019.
Yeah, so this was another one that I did for my painting class, actually. This was when I first started working for the aquarium as a mermaid, and the moray eels scared me because
Ah.
I watched a video of one of my coworkers. This is literally the same week I think I started. She showed me a video taken the week before that of the safety diver having to jump in front of her and push an eel out of the way because it was going right for her. And they can bite, they can latch down, they can take chunks of flesh off and leave nasty bacteria that can
Oh,
leave
yeah.
with nasty.
Oh, but think
Yes.
of the ideas for a painting if that happened.
That'd be pretty cool.
It would look like the one with the ladies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the last one. So that's what the moray eel thoughts. Did you have like nurse sharks or other sharks of any kind in the tank?
We had, I guess guitar fish. They are technically sharks. They're not dangerous at all. They just hang out on the bottom, and they look a lot like stingrays because stingrays are related to sharks. And we did have stingrays in there too, but they'd all been debarbed, and
Yeah.
they were so used to having us in the water that like
Mhm.
I could run. I could and I did run into them a bunch of times, and the most that would happen was like I ran into one from the bottom, and it stopped because it was stunned, and I'm like, move! I need to breathe.
Oh man.
But the moray eels, like that was the one thing they had. The safety divers had a bell. If a moray eel swam out, if it was coming towards you in any way, she'd ring the bell underwater because that was about the only thing that we could hear. And we had to come up and look around to see where it is so we could avoid it because you can't see underwater.
No.
Your job is to smile, look pretty, do some tricks, and make sure you don't get bitten.
Yeah, that's a good advice. That's good advice. What's the amore part like? The I love you. Is that Italian or
Yeah,
Spanish or
it's
what?
Italian.
Yeah.
Do you
I
remember
always
the
thought
Dean
of
Martin
that song. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always thought of that song.
Well, when the moon's in the sky like a great pizza pie, it's amore. That
But
one.
then there was
Yeah,
another one, when
yeah.
you swim in the creek and the eel bites your cheek, that's amore.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's too
And I
bad none of
just-
us were musicians. We could release a hit song on the show.
And it was funny because, like, after a while of being really afraid of these things, I was like, I actually sort of love them because they're not biting you because they're mean or anything. They're biting you because they're blind and stupid. And they just think, oh, bright color. But
So
I'm
you
like,
like
they're...
blind and stupid, huh?
Yeah.
It's kind of cute. It's endearing, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And you watch them and they're just like, because that's how they breathe.
So was that how the amore part there came, or was it
No,
because
honestly,
you
it was
loved
just a-
your jaw?
I love my job.
Job,
That is
or
true.
yeah, is the only word you could find that rhymed with more. Yeah.
A lot of my art back then didn't have names unless I thought of something funny.
Uh.
I was just like, I didn't want to take myself too seriously, but I like the titles.
So do you
to
have
be funny.
any pictures that you went back later and said, oh, I know a good name for it now that you didn't name before?
Or change the names.
I do that with some of my art, but that one in particular, I was like, nah, I like that.
Oh, I love that name.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's some of them like if I sit and think about it, or if somebody shows interest in an artwork that I wasn't originally intending to show, and I have sort of an unofficial name for it, I'll sit down and think a little more like, this needs a better name. This needs something I can be proud of. So then
Sure.
I'll rename it, but
and this kind of reminded me of Black Canary because she had leggings like that in the old days.
it was actually just an outfit that I really liked at the time.
Black Canary, is it like a character or something?
Yeah, and Green Arrow.
Oh, and Green Arrow, the Black Canary.
Yeah,
Man, I've got to
put on
review
there.
my villains. Yeah, this is.
She was a good guy.
Oh, well, don't we all start
good
that way?
lady.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones. It may actually be my favorite that you've done. That is, and then when I look at that, I say like that sort of looks like you. And so was this a representation of yourself on some level, or what was the story? And what's with all the eyes all over her body?
On some level, I've always been, it's the same thing as the etheria, sort of that angelic imagery. It's sort of being able to see multiple viewpoints at once, and I was also...
Is that the eyes in the different places? Seeing
eyes in different
multi-
places,
Nice.
seeing everything at once, and I also just think it's sort of a mark that something is not quite human. If it has too many eyes, it has too many of anything really, but I think that the eyes are sort of the most majestic
Sure.
part of the body, and you see like the biblical angels, a lot of them have the many-eyed seraphim and all
Yeah.
those things.
And wings and
And I was always super fascinated with that sort of seraphim and creepy. You can't look at it. It's the most terrifying thing you've ever seen in your life, and yet it's not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm. Is there wings? Is that wings that you have on there?
Yes.
Intentional. So that definitely it looked like an angel or some sort of heavenly being or outer space being or psychedelic being chick.
I want to say this is the prototype for like my whole angel sort of motif in all of my art. This was the first one I ever did, and this was in 2020, so I was 23, I think, when I painted. Actually, no, I started this in 2019, so I was 22 when I painted this.
Mm.
And mostly I had gotten a huge canvas from Ross, and I was like, this canvas is so big. It's 5 feet tall. It's like 3.5 feet wide. I have to do something magnificent with this. And you know, the most that I had to look off of was myself, so it does look a bit like me.
A little bit. I mean,
And
I've noticed a lot of your characters are blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just easiest for me to picture and try to figure out like the tones when I can already look at myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I love the flowing hair so much. That's been something that I've always been obsessed with since I was little. I'd go underwater and like make my hair flow out, try to make it as big and flowy as possible, because I just think it looks so magical.
Yeah, I like to do that as well with my hair.
And it flows a whole inch.
It flows, yeah.
A whole inch is really beautiful.
Do you think I should go blonde?
Peter lives in a little bit of a dream world.
Yeah, that's why I work on this show. Yeah, and then this I really appreciated off your Instagram. You're saying it was a slow day at work, and you needed to draw, and these are like yellow sticky pads that you've put stuff on. Really amazing work. You never know that's what you did that.
Yeah, these are they're made of whiteout, pen, and highlighters, and sticky notes. I just looked around the office. This was before I started bringing my iPad in. Before I thought, well, I was sort of new at the job. I didn't know what he would allow me to do, so I was like, I don't know if I can draw, but I have sticky notes here. You can't get mad at me for drawing on sticky notes.
So does he want half the commission now because you're doing that work?
No, I mean, these are still at work, and there's more of them there too, and I don't know, I was sort of going through like a depression then because I didn't like that job. I didn't like the fact that I had to leave my old job. I was very bored, and I felt like it was a very stale, and I still feel like that's a very stale environment, and I just feel like I kind of don't belong here. This is not who I am. So I decorated my space to try to make me feel a little bit better with what I could. I'm like, sticky notes, I'll just put sticky notes up because there's no rule against sticky notes. Now I know, I'm like, he's actually pretty easygoing and probably would let me put anything up as long as it's office appropriate. But I'm still kind of like, I'm excited I get to actually leave soon.
Do you think that you're going to continue with the sort of angelic motif, or are you changing directions now a little bit?
Right now I'm continuing with the angelic motif, but I'm trying to branch out into other things, like more like day-to-day life sort of scenarios, especially now that I'm like, okay, I gotta ground myself in reality a little bit here. I'm about to have a baby, and I need to be able to think about him and take care of him, and also sort of be happy with being a mom and not just wishing I was somewhere else, you know? Which I don't think is going to be a problem for me.
Mhm.
But I'm just like, I want to encourage myself to do that through art.
Well, that's good advice, I think, for any mom. And so we will be right back, and we're going to give you a little break, and we're going to bring Ty back and ask him some tough questions when we come right back.
The official coffee of the Kentucky-Arizona Walnut Association?
It's kava.
The national coffee of Kawasaki, Japan?
It's kava.
Hiya!
Is it the secret elixir of the surfers in Hawaii?
Or is it the secret island recipe of Kona, Koala, Kauai, or Cola? It's kava. Kava is Polish for coffee. And here at Kava Coffee, we focus on serving a delicious, high-quality cup of coffee in a space where love, coffee, and people mix into the perfect blend.
We value our relationships with our customers and our roasters. Buy locally whenever possible and truly have the homemade touch. Our pastries, syrups, and even our almond milk are made in-house.
So come on in, relax, get some work done. Enjoy the Kava community, some encouraging words from the Kava Coffee Gang.
Kava Coffee.
Be awake.
Welcome to the third chair, and again this week we have Ty with us, and we have Peter with us, who we're stuck with every week.
That's right.
Yeah.
Except for next week.
So, so next week you're not going to be here?
I'll be here.
He's gonna fall asleep on set again.
No, is that what's going to happen?
Yes.
It was actually pretty quiet when you fell asleep.
Yeah, it was one of the few times you get words in edgewise.
That's right. So in the last episode, you were talking about still working on your writing, and then you're doing some artwork. Can you tell us more about your writing?
Yeah, specifically artwork, that never actually went anywhere. I like to occasionally do doodles, but it looks like chicken scratch. So I try and stick with the written word as my
So
art,
you know who the better artist is in
yeah,
the
oh
family.
yeah, very much so. She takes top notch. So,
Mm-hmm.
no, there was a, it's a slow process in the making. Julia's actually brought up that she wanted to like create a world, but she doesn't know how to build a narrative. And I'm like, well, if you give me details about the world and the universe, I can make a narrative for you. I can think of something, you know. We haven't really visited back on that, but I plan on bugging her about it and stuff like that. Because I'd love to have a joint project working with her on that.
That'd
But
be an
beyond that,
interesting graphic novel.
yeah,
maybe.
exactly, and that fills in with the visual art point of the just story making in general. On the flip side, we were here in 2020, right?
Yes.
So I want to
November
say
2020 is when we actually
Okay.
interviewed you.
So ever since then, I've had a lot of practice, a lot of other sessions with multiple groups of mostly friends, and being able to explore different genres of fantasy. We have one for like a sci-fi or a kind of a sci-fi noir is what we call it, based off in the Star Wars universe. And then we have another one that's set in a very distant future of Earth in a post-apocalyptic setting. And then, of course, we have your typical Dungeons & Dragons type of dark fantasy setting. And I like going and reaching out to all three different those genres and then seeing if there's another one out there that'll excite me to build a story off of. But my friends really have allowed me to practice and develop my techniques.
Mhm.
And now I'm starting to feel like there's a rhythm to it. So,
Yeah, there was once in the 80s someone came up, they developed this world, and then they had other authors write stories in this world, and they had certain rules of what you could do with other people's characters and stuff. And some famous authors wrote some of them.
Yeah.
And they printed a series of books on that. I mean, something like
yeah,
that.
no,
if
there's
you-
there's always those things out there. My biggest excitement was when one of my friends started posting pictures on Instagram of the sessions that we held in his game, and I'm like, oh man, you're making it look like a comic, and it was like. I just got another adrenaline rush of excitement, like going, oh my god, it's so cool to see my written word and imagination come to life in a picture. And I just see it on my phone, and I'm like, that's so cool. And that's, I don't know, I want to be able to make stories that people can express their creativity through from there, you know?
Mhm.
And I love that teamwork type of thing. Even though sometimes playing as the dungeon or the game master, my role is to kill them. It's like, no, if someone dies, we call that character development, So
Character
Character
development.
development.
They'll get better next time.
There you go.
There have been people that have committed suicide over their characters dying.
No, I'm not gonna, push anything like that, but,
Yeah.
So if you took like someone's writing stories about your stories in Dungeon Masters, you could do that a couple of different ways. If you made a graphic novel, you could have
very much so.
You could just have a story about them.
Yeah.
You can kind of make their adventure you can make it comic, you can make it drama, or you could have a story like think they're real, and then you have characters controlling them like
Yeah.
you actually do.
When it comes to it, I feel like there's a triangle when it comes to like a graphic novel setting. You got to have a good story, you got to be able to narrate it well, and you got to be able to draw it. And I'm obviously missing the drawing part. And I'm like, okay, now
But
I
you
just
know
need
some
someone to help me out.
talented- yeah, talented people
See,
in that
there you
area.
go. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so as long as Julia or my friend Elijah in this case can fill in that role, I can go anywhere now. So, and it's not, my options aren't just limited to them. If someone else in my life just happens to come around and say, hey, let me do that, sure, take all the creative freedom you want. This is what I envision it, you take it from there.
So have you ever thought about like trying to make like I don't know if what you've been doing would be in the realm of like a board game? Could it be a board game?
Yeah,
I'm thinking like Risk.
Dungeons and Dragons is kind of a board because
it's kind of a board game
because you shake dice.
Yeah, it's in a sense.
But there's role play a lot.
There can be a board in play. There could be figures in play. Sometimes there couldn't be any of those. There could be just it's funny if you were to look at it from a child's point of view, it just looks like a bunch of people doing paperwork and talking.
Right.
So it doesn't look interesting at all from a child's point of view.
Mhm.
But then, you know, once you hear the conversations and the stories, what's happening to the characters, and sometimes, you know, there will be figures just to illustrate what's happening on a battlefield or what's happening within the local tavern. You know, some people just are able to comprehend the story better with a visual cue. And from there, it just, I don't know, I just love it so much. I can go on and on.
Because some of these stories with Dungeons and Dragons can be complicated, because you're saying you're playing a game now that you've been playing since when?
Oh, yeah, so there's originally the story started off, I wanted to introduce my wife into tabletop role-playing, because that has been my passion since 2008. It's been a while. And to introduce her to it, I said, hey, you choose your friends, what friends we want to do the session with. And we started the story, and I think it was like late 2015, early 2016, around that same period. And they're still using the same characters. It's still been the same plot. I do want to say we're getting close to the end of the story, however. And
well, it's
hopefully,
quite a story, though.
Oh yeah, no, very much so. They've grown so much. The party started off as 3 to 4 people, and I did a couple guest players here and there of, oh, look, here's a cameo here of someone else, and each of my friends they're like, hey, we like this enough that can I come in again next week? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And now I'm running a 7-person party. It gets a little, a little mumble jumbled.
So that's
but,
interesting. You
know,
write backstories and
you got to take all of that into
and
account.
the
So
7 characters interacting with each other, and remember who likes who, or did they break up?
Exactly,
exactly.
So in that sense, it's really way beyond a board game. It's continuously evolving. As a matter of fact, every round is probably totally unique.
It really comes down to I'm building. Yes, I'm the game master. I'm the judge that dictates how chaos affects the universe. However, in real life terms, I'm just working with the players to make a really cool story. That's all it is. I enjoy that.
Did you ever have an idea like, oh, I think it's going to go this way, and then some player does a move and it like throws everything off that you thought of? Or
all the time. But that's I want to say at least half of the fun of what you find out through tabletop role playing is sometimes the dice will screw you, sometimes the dice will bless you. It just goes how it depends on how it rolls, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And just remember, life is like the roll of a dice.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What was it Forrest Gump used to say? Life is like a
box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Never going to get. Well, except for the ones that have like a key on the cover. So you know if you pick to the bottom right, you get chocolate nougat.
Forrest was too adventuresome to have those.
I know.
Sometimes those chocolates can be explosive. You never know.
You never know. Well, I guess we're going to have to take a break.
Yes. Thank you for being here, Ty.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
We'll be right back. We'll get back to our guest in just a moment. But
do you have a story to tell?
Would you, yes you, like to be a guest on The Third Chair?
Send us an email and tell us about yourself and your story.
And please follow us on social media.
Now back to the episode. Welcome to The Third Chair with Peter. And we're going to make this last part up.
Yeah. We are out of gas, out of questions, out of pictures. Not really.
So we have both Julia and Ty here. So
thanks for being here. All right, so when is the graphic novel going to come out then? Are you making a commitment now on the show?
Tomorrow it's going to be ready.
A commitment now so that when we come back a year from now and you're here with your 6 children, then
you can have them.
You're adopting 5, right?
Actually, that'd be better.
Yeah,
But
in
no.
a 2-bedroom apartment. Yeah. No, definitely. Starting once we hit the summer, and it all depends on how busy we're gonna get with the little one here. No, it's definitely something that I want to start divulging into. It's definitely a goal of mine to see if I can get myself out there, and just kind of, hey, I'll maybe start at a couple game stores and ask them, hey, I can host this type of game, this type of session, or I can do something else. What would you guys like me to do? And then I just want to try and go from there.
What would be easier? Have Julia's drawings first or Ty's narrative first and developing a graphic novel?
Ooh.
I think
I never thought about that.
the easiest way to go is if I had some concept art and then he could look at it, come up with a story from there, give me a little bit more direction to go with that concept art, sort of form it into a real story, and then he can take the narrative from there and I can just illustrate it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would have said too.
Yeah.
Ty, have you ever looked at one of Julia's pictures and said, oh, I think I could make a real good story out of that?
I want to say the one that hangs in our bedroom, the 5-foot, the big one, the Sweet Mother.
The $100,000 picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
There's
that
more
she
than
wouldn't
that.
take
That's
the
a
cash
private.
for
For that
it.
rumor,
Yeah,
might
no,
be able to
no,
Yeah.
that's
get that much.
sorry. That's our good morning, good night companion. So,
Yeah.
but no, starting with that, definitely, there's definitely possibilities. Especially the angel can represent both good and evil within, like a moral perspective. Like the good, it could represent something as an angelic being. But on the flip side, you could look at it as a incomprehensible eldritch horror that descends upon the world and something happens. So, and then I
this is a
can
good
just go
beginning,
from
yeah.
there. So,
Yeah, I'm
no,
liking
that
it.
was great actually. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
so I have a question for mainly for Julia, but if you know, jump in. I have seen advertisements for programs like Doodle Maker, Doodly, Video Scribe, where you literally have a collection of templates, pictures that you can drag onto a whiteboard, and then it will draw that from scratch, like with a hand, draw it. And they're often used for making explainer videos. Have you worked with any of those? You're giving me the look like you frequently give me, like, Peter, what the hell are you talking about?
No, I never really have, because I've always sort of been under the impression, and I mean this isn't true for everyone, I think everybody should find their own way of doing things, but for me, I think if I let something else tell me how to draw something, I'll never find my own style.
Sure.
And I feel like recently I have found my own style, and
Mhm.
it's all done through practice and observation.
Mhm.
I've literally sat on a train and drawn people that were sitting across from me, and it always still has a little bit of my style in it, and I like that about. I didn't used to like that. I used to get really mad because I'm like, I can't break away from this style. Why can't I draw something really realistic? But now I realize it's because I'm like, that's my voice. That's me and my experiences and my vision breaking through into what should look like reality. Because everybody else is like, wow, it's so realistic. And I'm like, yeah, but... Okay, yeah.
Well, we need to wrap up, so I'm going to ask Ty this first. Suppose someone wanted to rent you for the evening to be a dungeon master or something like that. Do you have a contact point? How would people... are you even looking
Actually,
to do that?
I think I'm going to start with going with Instagram or Facebook, one of the two. I haven't set up anything just yet. I want to say, especially the start of this year, I really have, I want to start stepping up to the plate this year for something.
Okay.
But worst case scenario, if you can contact this one, you can contact me.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was going to just send out, yeah. And that way she, though, does get 10% of the ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I get all of
she's
the
getting more. She's getting more than 10%.
Yeah, and then
He's my husband, I get whatever he
Julia,
gets.
your JuliaMortensen.com and JMortsArt on Instagram.
Yes.
and you prefer the J Mort's art on Instagram.
Yes, I
for
also
a DM.
Same thing as Tumblr, jmortsart.tumblr.com.
Do you use Tumblr a lot?
I don't use it a lot for art, but I do post art on there. That's more just so like, oh, I have another platform that people can look at, but I don't want anybody looking at my main page.
Well, very good. Well, we're going to have to wrap up. Thank you both so much. We applaud you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
back.
you.
That was
Yeah.
interesting after not seeing you
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
for a while.
Yeah.
And we ask people to subscribe, and we'll see you all next week.
This has been The Third Chair. Want to be a guest? Want to sponsor our show? Send us an email. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.